They kicked her, not because she started a fight, not because she did anything wrong, but because of a single sentence she spoke out loud in a room full of people who thought they knew better. My mom's a Navy SEAL. That's all it took. 5 words from a 12-year-old girl sitting in a middle school cafeteria on a Tuesday night in March, and the room turned on her like wolves on wounded prey. They called her a liar, mocked her to her face, laughed until their sides hurt. And then their son kicked her in the shin hard enough to leave a mark that would still be visible 3 days later. They thought no one was watching. They thought no one would come. But then the door opened, and the woman they said didn't exist stepped into that hallway. She didn't raise her voice, didn't break anything, didn't even blink, but what she did next would change how that school treated her daughter forever. And it would teach a room full of veterans something they should have learned a long time ago. Before we show you the moment of a retired Marine realized who he just called a liar and how this Navy SEAL mother reclaimed her daughter's dignity in complete silence, you need to understand something. This story isn't about revenge. It's about precision. The overhead fluorescent lights buzz faintly in the multipurpose room of Lincoln Middle School, casting that institutional glow over plastic folding chairs and coffee-stained printouts from the PTA. It was 17:30 hours, 5:30 p.m. for everyone who'd never worn a uniform. The meeting was supposed to start at 1800, but nobody seemed to mind that they were already running behind schedule. Parents filtered in slowly. Oversized purses, tired siblings dragging their feet, thinly veiled expectations hanging in the air like humidity before a storm. Paper name tags clung to polo shirts and cardigans. Someone near the back was pouring lukewarm lemonade into styrofoam cups, the kind that would be half crushed and forgotten by the end of the night. This was Veteran Family Recognition Night, a quarterly tradition at Lincoln Middle designed to honor the military families in their community. A nice gesture, well-intentioned, the kind of thing that looks good in the school newsletter. But tonight, intention and reality were about to collide. Peyton Vance sat in the far left corner of the room, legs crossed tightly at the ankles, back straight even though the metal chair dug into her spine. She was 12 years old, small for her age, with dark blonde hair pulled into a tight ponytail that made her look even younger than she was. A manila folder lay flat across her lap, gripped so tightly her knuckles had gone white. Her eyes flicked toward the door. Once, twice, again. Still no sign of her mom. Peyton hadn't eaten much since lunch, but her stomach wasn't empty. It was full of something heavier than hunger. Pressure. The kind that builds behind your eyes when you're trying not to cry in public. Around her, other students beamed under the glow of parental pride. One girl whispered loudly to her friend about how her dad had flown in just for this event. Another boy gestured toward his father's camouflage uniform, still crisp and catching looks from every corner of the room. Everywhere Peyton looked, someone had someone. She just had a folder. A cluster of adults occupied the center right table. 4 parents who clearly knew each other too well. 2 of them were former Marines, broad-chested men with military haircuts that hadn't changed in 30 years. Their wives were louder than necessary, laughing at half-funny stories about base politics and deployment cycles and whatever administrative stunt the school had tried to pull last year. The kind of people who treated a PTA meeting like a command briefing. At the head of that table sat Brock Hendricks, 51 years old, retired gunnery sergeant, United States Marine Corps, 25 years of service, Desert Storm veteran. His jacket was covered in patches and pins, each one a story he'd told 100 times. His wife Diane sat beside him, perfectly styled hair, expensive watch, the kind of confidence that comes from being married to someone who expects deference. Their son, Anner, leaned back in his chair 2 seats over. 16, linebacker build, the kind of kid who'd never been told no by anyone who mattered. Their daughter Reagan sat scrolling through her phone, bored, waiting for this whole thing to be over. Brock glanced across the room and his eyes landed on Peyton, sitting alone. No parent beside her. He nudged his wife and tilted his head in Peyton's direction. Diane followed his gaze and smiled, not kindly. "Looks like someone got stood up again," she said, not quietly. The man next to Brock snorted into his coffee. Or mom's stuck in traffic from wherever imaginary parents drive in from." Scattered chuckles rippled through their group. Peyton didn't respond. She didn't even look over. Her fingers just tightened slightly on the folder. She'd heard this before. Different words. Same message. You don't belong here. The teacher at the front of the room clapped her hands together with an awkward smile. Miss Patricia Henley, 53 years old, 26 years teaching middle school. Well-meaning but chronically overwhelmed by everything from budget cuts to parent egos. Okay, everyone, if we could all take our seats, we'll go ahead and begin our quarterly Veteran Family Recognition event. She smiled too widely. Students, thank you so much for joining us tonight. You're all very brave for sitting through this. Polite laughter. Peyton didn't move. She sat straighter. Her eyes flicked to the door one more time. Still nothing. But she knew her mom was coming. She always came. Sometimes late, sometimes at the last possible second, but never missing. Peyton held on to that knowledge like it was body armor no one else could see. Ms. Henley began calling names like roll call, but for parents instead of students. She'd prepared a whole script about community building and honoring service, about how tonight was a chance to remind everyone that they were all part of the same team. Peyton didn't feel like part of any team. Not right now. One by one, the kids stood and proudly announced the obvious. I'm Aiden Harper. That's my dad, Captain Harper. He served 2 tours in Iraq. Applause, genuine smiles. I'm Zoe Williams. My mom's Lieutenant Williams Air Force. She works in logistics. More applause. I'm Marcus Thorne. My parents are over there. Dad's Army Reserve. Nods of approval. Easy recognition for simply showing up. Then it was Peyton's turn. Ms. Henley looked her way with a gentle, almost pitying expression. Peyton, would you like to go ahead? Peyton stood slowly. The folder remained in one hand. Her voice didn't waver, but it wasn't loud either. Just clear. Factual. My name is Peyton Vance. My mom is Commander Caitlin Vance. She's running late tonight. She serves with Naval Special Warfare Development Group. The room went quiet, but not the kind of silence that respects what was just said. It was the kind that pauses mid-breath, then shifts into something sharper. Meaner. Brock Hendricks chuckled under his breath, low but loud enough to carry. Diane raised her eyebrows and leaned toward the woman beside her. Devgru, that's SEAL teams, isn't it? Ms. Henley blinked rapidly. Oh, well, I'm sure she'll be here soon, Peyton. But the comment had already landed like a stone in still water. Wait, Brock said louder now. He wasn't laughing anymore. He was leaning forward, elbows on the table, looking directly at Peyton. Did you just say your mom's a SEAL? Peyton met his eyes. Yes, sir. Diane tilted her head with exaggerated sympathy. Sweetheart, there are no women in SEAL teams. I think maybe you're confused about what your mom does. Another parent chimed in from across the room. She probably works on base, administration maybe. Those jobs are important too. Brock shook his head slowly, still staring at Peyton. Kid, I respect what you're trying to do here, honoring your mom's service. But claiming she's a SEAL operator, that's not a thing. And frankly, it's disrespectful to the men who actually earned that trident. Peyton's jaw tightened. Her voice stayed calm. She is a SEAL. She's an operator. Tanner snorted from his seat. Next, she's going to say her mom parachutes into war zones and defuses bombs. Laughter erupted. Not from everyone, but from enough people that it felt like the whole room. Ms. Henley held up her hands, trying to regain control. Okay, let's all just... But Brock wasn't done. He stood now, walking slowly toward Peyton's table. Not aggressive, just confident. The way men move when they're used to being right. Peyton, I served 25 years in the Marine Corps. I know how this works. Women can serve. Women can do incredible things in the military. But SEAL teams, that's a different level. It requires a physical standard that... He stopped himself, choosing his words carefully. It's just not something women are built for. So either your mom told you a story to make you feel special, or you misunderstood what she does. Either way, it's okay to admit that. Peyton opened her folder with shaking hands. She pulled out a photograph. Her mom in desert camouflage, face clear, standing in front of a helicopter. Other faces in the photo were blurred. Redacted. She held it up. Brock took it, examined it closely. His wife leaned over his shoulder. Could be photoshopped, Diane said dismissively. Could be a costume, Brock added. You can buy BDUs at any surplus store. Peyton pulled out another page. A certificate. Bronze Star. awarded to Lieutenant Commander Caitlin Vance for actions under fire in Helmand Province, Afghanistan, 2014. Brock stared at it longer this time. His expression shifted, just slightly, but then he shook his head. This could be forged. I'm not saying it is, but anyone with a printer and some creativity, she's not lying. Peyton's voice cracked just slightly. She's really a SEAL. Brock handed the papers back. Honey, I'm sure your mom does important work, but this, he gestured at the folder, this isn't real, and the sooner you accept that, the easier things will be. He turned and walked back to his seat. The room resumed its low hum of conversation. A few parents whispered to each other. Some looked at Peyton with pity, others with thinly veiled annoyance. Ms. Henley cleared her throat. Let's move on, shall we? Next we have... But Peyton wasn't listening anymore. She sat down slowly, clutching her folder against her chest. Her throat felt tight. Her eyes burned. Not because she doubted her mom, but because no one else believed her. The meeting broke for a 10-minute stretch at 1845, a chance for parents to refill their coffee, for kids to escape into the hallway that connected the multi-purpose room to the main classroom wing. The murmur of adult conversation spilled into the corridor, mixing with the clatter of lockers and the squeak of sneakers on old floor wax. A few students wandered toward the vending machines. Others checked their phones in corners where teachers couldn't see. Peyton slipped out quietly. She didn't want coffee, didn't want snacks. She just wanted space. She found a bench halfway down the hall, near the lost and found bin, across from a poster about anti-bullying that felt more like decoration than policy. She sat down, pulled her knees up slightly, and tucked her folder against her chest. If she made herself small enough, maybe the attention would fade. It didn't. The Hendricks family stepped into the hallway with the kind of loud confidence people use when they're sure no one will correct them. Brock's voice carried as he talked to another dad about base contracts and military budgets. Diane laughed too loudly at something that wasn't funny. Tanner and Reagan trailed behind, talking to each other, pointing at things that didn't matter. Brock spotted Peyton immediately. There's our storyteller, he said, not cruelly, almost gently, like he was talking to a confused child. Diane smirked. Still no mom, I see. Maybe she's swimming here from Coronado and got tired halfway. Tanner laughed under his breath as they approached. Peyton stood. She intended to walk away, to find another hallway, another bench, anywhere else, but Diane shifted just enough to block her path. It looked accidental. It wasn't. Whoa there, sweetheart, Diane said. Tone sweet, eyes sharp. No need to rush off. Peyton's pulse quickened. I just need to... Brock crouched slightly, bringing himself closer to eye level. Let's hear it again. Just for us. Say your mom's a SEAL. Go ahead. Peyton's voice came out barely above a whisper. She is. Tanner flicked the edge of her folder with 2 fingers. Casual. Careless. The folder tumbled from Peyton's hands. Papers fanned across the tile floor like feathers scattering in wind. The photograph of her mom. The Bronze Star certificate. A progress report from school. A permission slip. All of it spread across the dirty hallway floor. Oops, Tanner said flatly. Clumsy. Peyton dropped to her knees immediately. She gathered the papers with small shaking hands. Didn't ask for help. Didn't look up. Brock stood over her, arms crossed. If your mom was really a SEAL, you wouldn't fall apart this easy. Diane added, maybe she's supply staff. Kids exaggerate. It's normal. Peyton tried to stand, but Reagan drifted into her path, smiling, thin and cold. Say it again, Reagan demanded. Say your mom's a Navy SEAL. I don't want to, Peyton said quietly. Brock crouched again, invading her space. Because it's a lie, kid. It's not, Peyton whispered. Tanner nudged her shin with his sneaker, light, pointed, testing boundaries. Peyton flinched. She didn't cry out, just pulled back slightly, breath-catching. No one from the staff noticed. The hallway was a blind spot. Doors closed, adults distracted. One of those rare corners where cruelty could grow without witnesses. Peyton hugged her folder to her chest and whispered again, barely audible. Please stop. They laughed, all of them. Not loud, just enough to make sure she heard. And somewhere down that hallway, footsteps echoed. Quiet, steady, deliberate. Someone was coming. Peyton crouched on the cold tile floor, gathering her scattered papers one by one, careful not to let her hands shake, careful not to show her face. The page with her science grade was creased now, folded at an ugly angle. She tried smoothing it against her knee. It didn't help. Tanner still stood over her, phone in hand, recording. "Hey," he said again, voice low, taunting. "You gonna cry or salute us?" Peyton didn't look up. That's when he moved. A deliberate step forward. Not hard enough to knock her over. Not brutal, but aimed, planned. His sneaker connected with her shin just above the ankle. A calculated snap of force. Enough to leave a mark. Enough to make a point. Peyton's elbow struck the edge of the locker as she recoiled. One more paper slipped from her hands and skittered across the floor. She gasped, sharp and sudden, but she didn't scream. The sound echoed anyway. Brock grinned from a few feet away. If she was really a SEAL's kid, she'd take a hit better than that. Diane chimed in with mock concern. "Maybe lying makes you weak." Laughter followed. Even Reagan smirked, arms folded, watching like this was entertainment. Peyton sat frozen, legs pulled in, folder clutched against her chest like a life preserver. The pain in her shin bloomed fast, dull heat spreading outward. She pressed the sleeve of her jacket to her eyes. "Stop," she whispered. "Please stop." But that only fueled them. Diane stepped closer. "Or what, Peyton, you gonna call in the SEALs gonna tell your imaginary mom to rappel through the ceiling?" Another chuckle, another nudge of a shoe. Not a kick this time, just a mock push, like she was a piece of luggage in the way. From somewhere down the corridor, a student passed and kept walking. Eyes locked ahead, ears pretending not to hear. Then Tanner raised his phone higher, screen lit, camera pointed directly at Peyton's face. "Let's get this on video," he said, grinning. "Caption it, 'When fake SEAL kids cry.'" Peyton curled forward slightly, turning away, but she didn't shield herself. Didn't want to give them that satisfaction. She just wanted the night to end. Behind them, footsteps sounded. Quiet, steady. Someone noticed the shift in the air first. Not because of volume, but because the rhythm changed. The door at the end of the hallway eased open. No announcement, no fanfare. But Tanner's phone slowly lowered. Reagan turned first. The parents didn't see it yet, but Peyton did. A figure stood in the open doorway, framed by dull hallway light. Motionless. Caitlin Vance was home. Commander Caitlin Vance didn't need to slam the door. She didn't need to shout. She just stepped inside. Hair still damp from a post-training rinse pulled back into a tight bun. Civilian workout gear clinging to lean, defined arms. No insignia, no boots, no uniform. Just a plain charcoal gray zip hoodie, navy blue tactical pants, and the kind of eyes that never stop scanning a room. She saw her daughter first. Not the bruises, not the papers scattered across the floor, not the phone recording. Just Peyton, sitting against the lockers, lips pressed tight, one sleeve damp where she'd wiped her eyes. Kate didn't blink, didn't ask for context, didn't need any. She moved. Not rushed, not slow, measured, controlled. She crouched next to Peyton and placed one hand gently on her shoulder. "Hey," she said quietly, voice soft, steady. "You okay?" Peyton nodded once, but her chin trembled. Kate's voice dropped even lower. "What happened?" Peyton whispered, barely audible. "They said you weren't real." Kate's jaw set, but she didn't react. She glanced down, saw the shoe mark on Peyton's shin, the scattered pages, the crumpled folder. "Are you hurt?" she asked. Peyton gave the faintest nod. "Just my leg. It's okay." Kate exhaled once through her nose. Slow, controlled. Then she stood. Everything that followed happened in silence. She reached down, collected the creased pages with precise fingers, tapped them into a neat stack against her thigh, slipped them carefully into Peyton's folder, handed it back to her daughter gently with one hand. Then she stepped forward. It wasn't loud. It wasn't even sharp. It was just controlled. "Which one of you," Kate said, voice level and soft, "put hands on my daughter?" The hallway shrank. No one answered. Brock stiffened but didn't speak. Tanner tucked his phone behind his back like a sixth grader caught cheating. Diane instinctively stepped behind her husband. Kate asked again, not louder, not angrier, just clearer. "I asked a question. Which one of you touched my daughter?" Still silence. But now the pressure had changed. Kate wasn't leaning forward, wasn't posturing. She just stood there, hands by her sides, shoulders squared. And somehow it was more threatening than yelling ever could have been. Tanner swallowed hard. Brock stepped forward half a pace, trying to recover the room, trying to reclaim control. "Look," he said carefully, "this is a misunderstanding. No one meant anything." Kate turned her head slightly, her eyes locked on him. "No one meant anything. Then why is my daughter sitting on the floor with a bruise and a torn folder?" He flinched. She wasn't just a mom, and now they were realizing it. Too late. Brock lifted his chin, trying to reclaim ground. He was a big man, broad-shouldered, arms folded just wide enough to suggest authority. His voice was steady, but the edges were too polished. Overcompensating. "Ma'am," he began, "this is a misunderstanding. Nobody was trying to hurt your kid." Kate didn't blink. "She has a boot mark on her shin." Diane jumped in quickly, laughing awkwardly. "They were teasing. Kids' roughhouse. You know how it is." Kate stepped forward, not aggressively, just deliberately. "So you're saying the bruise is accidental?" "She was exaggerating," Tanner muttered from behind his father. Kate ignored him. She looked at Brock again. "You're in uniform." Brock straightened slightly, proudly. "Retired gunnery sergeant, 25 years, Marine Corps. Then you should have known better." The words landed like a slap. Diane bristled. "Hold on, who even are you?" Kate kept her voice flat. "I'm her mother." "We got that part," Diane snapped. "But what's your angle? Showing up late and playing tough?" Diane's friend chimed in. "What are you, Army Reserve? You don't get to bark orders at us." Kate's jaw moved just slightly, like she was adjusting a lock inside her own body. But her tone didn't change. She looked back at Tanner. "You kicked her." He shook his head quickly, eyes darting. "She bumped into me." Kate crouched slowly beside Peyton again. Gently she pulled up the cuff of her daughter's jeans. A red mark bloomed across the front of her shin. Clean, horizontal, unmistakably shaped. Kate stood again, folder still in one hand. "That's a shoe tread." Brock moved closer now, not violently, but with intent. He stepped into her personal space, puffed out his chest, the classic move. Intimidation through size. "You need to calm down, ma'am." Kate didn't step back, didn't flinch. She simply tilted her head a few degrees. Her voice remained smooth as glass. "Are you trying to intimidate me?" "No one's doing that," he said, voice rising slightly. "Because if you are," Kate continued, "you should stop now. You're already behind." There was no threat in it, no raised fist, no flexed stance, but something in the way she said it made everyone in that hallway feel smaller. Diane tried again. "Lady, we didn't know she was your kid." Kate's eyes didn't move. "You shouldn't need to." And for a moment, the entire hallway felt like it belonged to her. Brock took another half step forward. His voice dropped to that stiff warning register soldiers use when they want to claim control without actually knowing what they're doing. "You need to lower your tone, lady." Kate didn't move, didn't blink, didn't shift her stance. "Wrong audience," she replied. That was when he made the mistake. He reached out, hand flat, fingers just barely brushing her arm, like he meant to usher her back. Not forceful, not violent, but physical. Kate moved. It wasn't explosive. It wasn't showy. It was efficient. Her right foot pivoted behind his. Her left hand caught his wrist in one fluid motion. His own momentum betrayed him. She didn't throw him. She guided him. Off center, off balance. His hips slammed into the lockers with a thud that echoed down the corridor. Gasps spilled from the doorway behind them. Reagan stepped backward. Fast. Tanner froze, unsure whether to reach for his dad or run. Diane screamed. "What the hell was that?" She lunged forward like she meant to grab Kate's shoulder, but Kate sidestepped without effort. One lean pivot. The woman stumbled past and had to grab the wall to stop herself from falling. Tanner stepped in now, fists clenched, red-faced. But before he could move, Kate turned, palm outward, stopping him with nothing but position. "Try it," she said softly. He didn't. He couldn't. Brock groaned and pushed himself upright, breath catching. He stared at her, wide-eyed, confused. "Who the hell are you?" he rasped. Kate released his wrist with mechanical precision and stepped back. "Lieutenant Commander Caitlin Vance," she said, voice calm, matter-of-fact. "United States Navy, Naval Special Warfare Development Group, 20 years on record, currently attached to SEAL Training Command." Silence swallowed the hallway. Even the fluorescent lights seemed to dim under the weight of what she just said. Diane's mouth opened, but no words came. Tanner's hands dropped to his sides like he'd just realized they didn't matter anymore. Brock stared, processing, recalculating everything he thought he knew. Kate didn't gloat, didn't sneer, didn't puff her chest. She simply turned, walked back to her daughter, and crouched beside her again. "You okay?" she asked. Peyton nodded, staring, not in fear, in awe, because the woman who walked into that hallway wasn't the myth they'd all mocked. She was real, and now they all knew. A door burst open behind them. Fast, urgent. Miss Patricia Henley stepped out first, clipboard still in hand, her practiced smile already gone. She'd heard the impact, heard the gasps, and the second she saw who was standing where her pace changed from casual to urgent. Principal David Oakes followed right behind her, 58 years old, 32 years in education. He'd seen fights before, seen parent confrontations, seen every flavor of school drama that existed. But the tableau in front of him now made him stop mid-stride. Brock Hendricks against the lockers, one hand on his ribs, face flushed. His wife Diane leaning against the opposite wall, breathing hard. Their son Tanner standing frozen with his phone still clutched behind his back. And a woman he'd never seen before crouched calmly next to Peyton Vance, checking her daughter's shin with the clinical precision of a field medic. Behind Oakes came Deputy Marcus Barnes, school resource officer, 51 years old, 23 years with the Sheriff's Department, former Navy. He'd served on a destroyer in the late 90s, seen 2 deployments, then transitioned to law enforcement when his knees gave out. Barnes took one look at the scene and his training kicked in immediately. "Everyone step back," his voice cut through the hallway like a blade. "Separate." Now, Kate stood slowly, hands visible, non-threatening posture. She'd been through enough de-escalation training to know exactly how this looked from the outside. Brock pushed off the locker, still catching his breath. His voice came out louder than he intended, angrier. "She attacked me. I want her arrested." Barnes held up one hand, calm but firm. "Sir, I need everyone to stop talking, right now." Master Chief Garrett Sullivan appeared in the doorway behind them. 71 years old, retired SEAL. He lived 2 doors down from Kate, and Peyton had been checking in on the girl since she was 6 years old. He'd followed the Hendricks family into the hallway 5 minutes ago, standing just out of sight, watching, waiting to see if he'd need to step in. He hadn't needed to. Now he spoke, voice low, authoritative. "Deputy Barnes, I witnessed the entire exchange." Barnes turned, recognized Sullivan immediately. They'd crossed paths at veteran events before. "Master Chief?" Sullivan stepped forward. He grabbed her first. She defended herself. Proportional response. Clean. Brock's head snapped towards Sullivan. "Charlie, what the hell? You're seriously taking her side?" Sullivan didn't even look at him. He kept his eyes on Barnes. "I'm not taking sides. I'm stating facts." He initiated physical contact. She responded. Self-defense. Diane found her voice, shrill, desperate. "That's not what happened. She came in here aggressive, threatening our son." Kate's voice cut through, calm, measured. "Your son kicked my daughter. That's assault and battery of a minor. Everything I've done since entering this hallway has been in response to that." Ms. Henley stammered, trying to regain some semblance of control. "Let's all just, everyone calm down and we can talk about this in the office." Barnes raised his hand again. "No, we're doing this by the book." He looked directly at Kate. "Ma'am, I need you to identify yourself." Kate reached slowly into the front pocket of her hoodie, movements deliberate, non-threatening. She produced a black leather credential wallet. She opened it. 4 credentials. Military ID, DOD access card, NAV spec war badge, top secret clearance. She handed the wallet to Barnes without a word. Barnes examined each credential carefully. His expression shifted, just slightly, but enough that everyone watching could see it. He'd spent 4 years in the Navy. He knew what legitimate DOD credentials looked like. The weight of the cardstock and the embedded security features, the holographic seals, these weren't fake. He looked up at Kate, met her eyes. Commander Vance. She nodded once. Barnes handed the wallet back. His tone changed, respectful. Understood, ma'am. Brock stared. What? What is that? Barnes turned to him. She's confirmed active duty, Naval Special Warfare Command. That's impossible, Diane said. But her voice had lost its edge. Now it just sounded confused. Kate slipped the wallet back into her pocket. Deputy Barnes, I'd like to file a formal incident report. My daughter was verbally harassed, had her property destroyed, and was physically assaulted. There's video evidence. She looked at Tanner. On his phone. Tanner's face went white. Barnes extended his hand. Son, I need your phone. Now. Tanner looked at his father. Brock said nothing. Tanner handed over the phone. Unlocked it. Barnes swiped through the recent videos. Found it. Pressed play. The audio was clear. Tanner's voice taunting Peyton. The sound of papers scattering. Peyton's quiet plea to stop. Then the unmistakable thud of a kick connecting. Peyton's gasp. Barnes stopped the video. His jaw tightened. This is evidence. I'm confiscating this. You can't just, Diane started. Barnes cut her off. Ma'am, this video shows your son committing assault on school property. I absolutely can confiscate it. Principal Oakes finally found his voice. Everyone, staff room, now we're taking formal statements from all parties. Brock opened his mouth to protest, then stopped, because he was staring at Kate again. Really looking at her this time. Not at her clothes, not at her gender. At her face, something clicked. His expression changed. Confusion giving way to recognition. Then disbelief. Then something that looked almost like fear. Wait, he said slowly. Vance, Caitlin Vance. Kate met his eyes, said nothing. Brock took a step closer. Not aggressive this time. Cautious. Helmand Province, 2014. Kate's expression didn't change. Brock's voice dropped to barely above a whisper. You were there, you were the... He stopped, looked at Sullivan, then back at Kate. You were the widow. The hallway went silent again. But this time it was different. This wasn't the silence of mockery. This was the silence of realization. Kate still said nothing. Brock sat down heavily on the bench Peyton had been sitting on minutes before. He put his head in his hands. Oh God, he muttered. I called you a liar. Diane looked between her husband and Kate, completely lost. Brock, what are you talking about? Brock didn't answer her. He just sat there, shoulders slumped, the fight completely gone out of him. Sullivan spoke quietly. Deputy, if I may, I think you need to hear what he's talking about. Barnes nodded. I'm listening. Sullivan looked at Kate. She gave the slightest nod. Permission. Sullivan turned back to Barnes. October 12, 2014. Helmand Province, Afghanistan. A Marine rifle squad was pinned down by a Taliban sniper operating from a ridgeline at approximately 1,200 meters from their position. They'd been taking fire for 40 minutes. 2 wounded, running low on ammunition. Air support was 17 minutes out. He paused. Commander Vance was on overwatch from an adjacent position. The shot wasn't just difficult, it was by most standards impossible. 1,247 meters. High crosswind, elevated target. She took the shot, eliminated the spotter. 11 seconds later, she took a second shot, eliminated the primary sniper who'd repositioned. Both confirmed kills. The Marines were extracted without further casualties. Barnes stared at Kate. 1,247 meters. Kate's voice was quiet. 1249. Laser rangefinder confirmed post-action. Brock looked up. His eyes were red. Sergeant Castillo, that was his squad. Kate nodded once. First Squad, 2nd Platoon Echo Company. He told me, Brock said, voice breaking slightly. He said an angel saved them, said the shot was impossible, said whoever made it was the best operator he'd ever seen. He looked at Kate. He never knew your name. It was classified. They just called you the widow. Kate's jaw tightened, just slightly. My husband had been killed 7 months prior. IED, Northern Helmand. I kept his call sign. The weight of that settled over the hallway like snow. Diane was staring at her husband now. Brock, are you saying she's... Brock nodded. She's the real deal. Everything she said, everything her daughter said. He looked at Peyton. Kid, God, I'm so sorry. Peyton didn't respond. She just looked at her mother. Kate placed a hand on her daughter's shoulder. Gentle, protective. Then she looked at Principal Oakes. I want a formal incident report, she said. Statements from all witnesses. That video preserved as evidence. And I want the school's proposed action plan in writing by Monday morning. Oakes nodded quickly. Absolutely. Commander, will handle this appropriately. Kate's eyes moved to Tanner. The boy couldn't meet her gaze. You kicked my daughter. Do you understand what you did? Tanner's voice was barely a whisper. Yes, ma'am. Do you understand why it was wrong? He nodded, still not looking up. Kate's voice didn't rise, didn't sharpen. Then you'll have an opportunity to make it right, but not tonight. Tonight you answer for what you did. She turned to Barnes. Deputy, I'm not pressing criminal charges at this time, but I want this documented. If there's any retaliation, any further contact with my daughter, I will pursue full prosecution. Are we clear? Barnes nodded. Crystal clear, ma'am. Kate looked at Peyton. Can you walk? Peyton nodded. Then let's go give our statements. And then we're going home. They walked down the hallway together. Kate's hand still on Peyton's shoulder. Master Chief Sullivan followed a few paces behind. A silent honor guard. Behind them, the Hendricks family stood in the wreckage of their own assumptions. And for the first time in a very long time, Brock Hendricks understood what it felt like to be completely, utterly wrong. The staff room at Lincoln Middle School was designed for collaboration. Round tables, motivational posters about teamwork. A whiteboard still covered in notes from a curriculum meeting earlier that week. Tonight it felt like an interrogation room. Principal Oakes had separated everyone into different corners. Kate and Peyton sat at one table with Deputy Barnes. Master Chief Sullivan sat nearby, still serving as witness. The Hendricks family occupied another table across the room with Ms. Henley, who looked like she wanted to be anywhere else on Earth. Barnes had his notepad out. Official. By the book. Commander Vance, he began, I need you to walk me through what happened from the moment you entered the building. Start to finish. Take your time. Kate's voice was clinical, precise. No emotion, just facts. I arrived at the school at 1847 hours. I was delayed due to training obligations at Coronado. I entered through the main entrance, proceeded to the multi-purpose room. The meeting was in progress. I observed my daughter sitting alone. I took a seat in the back to avoid disruption. She paused. At approximately 1852, the meeting broke for intermission. I watched my daughter exit to the hallway. I waited 30 seconds, then followed. When I entered the corridor, I observed the following: my daughter on the floor gathering scattered papers. 4 adults standing over her. 2 juveniles, one of whom was holding a phone in recording position. My daughter appeared distressed. I observed a visible contusion forming on her right shin. Barnes wrote quickly, What happened next? I approached my daughter, conducted a preliminary welfare check. She confirmed she'd been kicked. I collected her belongings, returned them to her, then addressed the adults present. I asked who had touched my daughter. No one responded initially. Mr. Hendricks then stated it was a misunderstanding. I indicated that my daughter had visible injury and asked again. He approached me, entered my personal space, made verbal statements indicating I should lower my tone. Barnes looked up, and then he initiated physical contact, placed his hand on my left forearm. I perceived this as an attempt to physically move me or restrain me. I responded with a defensive technique. Kode Geishi wrist control with Tai Sabaki pivot. He lost balance and made contact with the lockers. I immediately released him and stepped back. Mrs. Hendricks then moved toward me aggressively. I sidestepped. She stumbled, but was not injured. At that point, you and Principal Oakes arrived. Barnes finished writing, looked at Sullivan. Master Chief, does that match what you observed? Sullivan nodded. Completely. I was approximately 15 feet away. I had followed the Hendricks family into the hallway because I observed their son harassing Miss Vance during the meeting. I witnessed Mr. Hendricks initiate physical contact. Commander Vance's response was controlled, proportional, and defensive in nature. No excessive force, no intent to injure. Barnes turned to Peyton, his voice softened. Peyton, can you tell me what happened before your mom arrived? Peyton's voice was quiet but steady. Tanner kicked me. They were all saying my mom wasn't a SEAL, that I was lying. Tanner knocked my folder out of my hands. The papers went everywhere. I tried to pick them up. Then he kicked my shin. Did he say anything when he kicked you? Peyton thought for a moment. He said if my mom was so tough, I should be able to take a hit better. Barnes wrote that down. And the video on his phone, do you know what he was recording? He said he wanted to get me crying on video for TikTok. Barnes's expression darkened. He looked at Oakes. We need to preserve that video as evidence. I've already secured the phone. I'll need parental consent to review the full contents. Oakes nodded. You'll have it. Across the room, Brock sat with his head down. Diane next to him, arms crossed, face tight. Tanner looked like he wanted to disappear. Reagan scrolled through her own phone, trying to pretend none of this was happening. Ms. Henley cleared her throat. Mr. Hendricks, I need to ask, did you witness your son kick Peyton? Brock didn't look up. No, we were talking. I didn't see it. But you were present when the confrontation with Commander Vance occurred. He nodded. I was there. And you did initiate physical contact with her. Long pause. Then quietly. Yes. Diane's head snapped toward him. Brock ate there. He held up a hand. Diane, stop. Just stop. She closed her mouth, but her eyes stayed angry. Oakes stood, formal now. Mr. and Mrs. Hendricks, based on the statements and video evidence, I'm implementing the following actions effective immediately. Tanner will be suspended for 5 school days. He will be required to complete a behavioral intervention program. He will issue a formal written apology to Peyton, and he will be placed on disciplinary probation for the remainder of the academic year. Diane started to object. Brock put a hand on her arm. He earned it, Brock said quietly. Don't fight this. Tanner's voice cracked. Dad, you kicked a 12-year-old girl, Brock said, voice flat. You recorded it like it was funny. You don't get to complain about consequences. Tanner looked down at the table. Oakes continued. Additionally, I'll be recommending to the district that we implement new protocols for how we handle claims about parent occupations. This should never have escalated this way. We failed Peyton, and we failed Commander Vance. Kate spoke for the first time in several minutes. Principal Oakes, I appreciate the action you are taking, but I want to be clear about something. He looked at her. Yes, this isn't about my credentials. This isn't about proving I'm a SEAL. This is about the fact that my daughter told the truth and was punished for it. The truth shouldn't require validation from authority. It should be the default assumption. Oakes nodded slowly. You're right, and that's a culture we need to change. Kate looked at Peyton. You ready to go home? Peyton nodded. They stood. Kate extended her hand to Barnes. Deputy, thank you for handling this professionally. Barnes shook her hand. Commander, if you need anything else, you have my contact information. Well, she nodded, then turned to Sullivan. Master Chief, thank you for being there. Sullivan smiled slightly. Wouldn't be anywhere else. As they walked toward the door, Brock stood suddenly. Commander Vance. Kate stopped, turned. Brock looked like he'd aged 10 years in the last hour. I need to say this. What I did tonight, what I said to your daughter, there's no excuse. I was wrong, completely wrong, and I'm sorry. Kate studied him for a long moment. Mr. Hendricks, you served 25 years. You earned that uniform. But tonight you taught your son that size and volume matter more than truth. You taught him that women can't be warriors. You taught him that when someone challenges your worldview, you can intimidate them into silence. Brock's face flushed, but he didn't look away. The question, Kate continued, is what you teach him tomorrow, and the day after, and every day after that. She turned and walked out. Peyton followed. The door closed behind them with a soft click. In the parking lot, the cool evening air felt like a benediction after the stale fluorescence of the school. Kate walked Peyton to their car, a practical gray sedan that had seen better days but ran reliably. She unlocked it. Peyton climbed into the passenger seat. Kate got behind the wheel but didn't start the engine immediately. They sat in silence for a moment. Mom, Peyton's voice was small. Yeah, baby. Are you mad at them? Kate thought about that. No, not really. Why not? Because they already learned what they needed to. Peyton looked at her mother. You didn't yell at them. I didn't have to. Peyton was quiet for another moment. Then, that move you did with Mr. Hendricks, was that real SEAL training? Kate smiled slightly. Basic defensive tactics, nothing fancy. He was off balance before I even touched him. Because he was angry. Because he was wrong, and somewhere deep down he knew it. Kate started the engine, adjusted the mirrors, pulled out of the parking space slowly. As they approached the exit, Kate slowed the car. Through the window, she could see Brock Hendricks standing near the school entrance, arms folded, watching them leave. He didn't wave, didn't sneer. He simply lowered his head once, a subtle acknowledgement. Kate didn't return it. She just turned the wheel and drove on. Mom, Peyton said after a few minutes, yeah. Next time someone says you're not real, what should I do? Kate glanced at her daughter. Tell the truth, just like you did tonight. But they didn't believe me. No, they didn't, but that's not your responsibility. Your responsibility is to tell the truth. What they do with it is up to them. Peyton nodded slowly, processing. They drove in comfortable silence for a while. The streetlights blurred past. The radio played something soft and instrumental. Finally, Peyton spoke again. Mom said, yeah, thank you for coming. Kate squeezed her daughter's hand. Always will, baby, always. They pulled into their apartment complex 20 minutes later. Master Chief Sullivan's porch light was on. He was sitting outside waiting. When he saw them pull in, he raised a hand in greeting. Kate and Peyton walked over. Everything okay? Sullivan asked. Kate nodded. Formal statements taken, incident documented. Kids getting suspended. Sullivan grunted. Good, he earned it. He looked at Peyton. You okay, kiddo? Peyton nodded. Yes, sir. Leg hurt. A little. Sullivan reached into his pocket and pulled out an old ice pack, the reusable kind wrapped in a thin towel. Figured you might need this. 20 minutes on, 20 minutes off. Keep the swelling down. Peyton took it. Thank you, Master Chief. He waved a hand. Go get some rest, both of you. Kate and Peyton went inside. Their apartment was small but clean, functional, military efficient, photos on the walls, Peyton's school awards on the fridge, a pair of Kate's running shoes by the door. Peyton sat on the couch and applied the ice pack to her shin. Kate went to the kitchen, poured 2 glasses of water, brought them back. She sat next to her daughter. You did good tonight, Kate said. I cried. So crying's not weakness, it's just emotion. Peyton looked at her mom. You didn't cry, boy. I'm older. I've had more practice keeping it inside. That doesn't make it better. Peyton leaned against her mother's shoulder. Kate put an arm around her. They sat like that for a while, the ice pack slowly warming, the apartment quiet except for the hum of the refrigerator and distant traffic. Finally, Peyton spoke. Mom, yeah. What happens now? Kate thought about that. About Brock Hendricks sitting in that staff room with his world turned upside down. About Tanner facing suspension and the reality of consequences. About a school that had failed to protect her daughter and was now scrambling to make it right. Now, Kate said quietly, we see if people can change. Do you think they will? I don't know, but we gave them the chance, Peyton nodded. And in the soft light of their small apartment, mother and daughter sat together, safe, whole, and ready for whatever came next. The call came at 06:30 Monday morning. Kate was already awake 3 miles into her daily run along the beach near Coronado. Her phone buzzed against her arm. She slowed to a walk, checked the screen. Principal David Oakes, she answered. Commander Vance. His voice was formal, careful. Commander, I apologize for the early call. I wanted to reach you before the school day started. I have the incident report and proposed action plan ready for your review. Would you be available to meet this morning? Kate checked her watch. She had weapons qualifications at 0900. I can be there at 0745. That works. Thank you, Commander. She finished her run at a slower pace, mind already shifting through what needed to happen next. This wasn't about revenge, never had been, but it was about making sure Peyton could walk into that school without fear, without having to prove her mother's existence every single day. By the time Kate showered and changed into civilian clothes, Peyton was awake, sitting at their small kitchen table, eating cereal. The bruise on her shin had darkened overnight to a deep purple. "How's it feel?" Kate asked. "Sore, but okay." Kate poured coffee. "I'm meeting with Principal Oakes this morning. You're staying home today. I'll call the school." Peyton looked up. "Am I in trouble?" "No, but I want to make sure everything's handled before you go back. Master Chief Sullivan will check on you while I'm gone." Peyton nodded, didn't argue. That was one thing military kids learned early. Trust the plan. Kate arrived at Lincoln Middle at 0743. The parking lot was mostly empty, a few teachers arriving early, custodial staff. The building had that hollow echo it always did before students flooded in. Principal Oakes met her at the main entrance. He looked like he hadn't slept much. Dark circles under his eyes. Tie slightly crooked. "Commander, thank you for coming." He led her to his office. A cluttered space. Too many filing cabinets. Student artwork on the walls. A coffee maker in the corner that looked like it had been running continuously since 1995. He handed her a folder. Thick. Official. Kate opened it. Incident report. 14 pages. Witness statements from Sullivan Barnes and 3 students she hadn't known were watching. Video evidence log with timestamps. Tanner Hendricks' disciplinary action plan, including mandatory counseling and probation terms. School-wide policy revisions. She read through it methodically, checking every detail, every consequence, every safeguard they'd put in place. When she finished, she looked up. "This is thorough, and it's fair." Oakes nodded. "We take this seriously, Commander. What happened to Peyton was unacceptable. And the way we handled her initial claims about your service was, frankly, it was discriminatory. We assumed she was lying because we couldn't imagine a woman in your position." Kate's expression didn't change. "What are you doing to fix that?" He pulled out another document. "New protocols, effective immediately. Anytime a student's claim about a parent's occupation is questioned, we verify through official channels before making any determination. No more assumptions, no more public challenges. And the staff, mandatory training, implicit bias, military family support. We're bringing in consultants from the Base Family Services Center." Kate studied him. "Mr. Oakes, I appreciate the action you're taking. But I need to know this isn't just about avoiding a lawsuit." He met her eyes. "Commander, I've been in education for 32 years. I've made mistakes, a lot of them. But what happened Friday night?" He stopped, collected himself. "Your daughter sat in that room and told the truth. And we punished her for it. Not officially, but socially, emotionally. We let other parents tear her down because we were too cowardly to verify facts. That's on me, and I'm not okay with that." Kate nodded slowly. "Then we're on the same page." She signed the acknowledgement form, accepted the formal apology letter, stood to leave. "Commander," Oakes said, "one more thing. We're having a Veterans Day assembly in November. I know it's months away, but would you consider speaking not as a defense of what happened, just as a representative of what service actually looks like?" Kate considered that. "I'll need to clear it with public affairs. Some things I can talk about, some I can't." "Of course, whatever you're comfortable with." She left the school feeling like something had shifted, not fixed, but moving in the right direction. 3 days later, on Thursday evening, there was a knock on Kate's apartment door. She checked the peephole. Brock Hendricks, alone. She opened the door but didn't invite him in. "Mr. Hendricks?" He looked worse than he had Friday night. Older, worn down. "Commander, I know I have no right to ask for your time, but I need 5 minutes, please." Kate studied him, then stepped outside, closing the door behind her. They stood on the small concrete landing outside her apartment, evening air cool, traffic humming in the distance. "Talk," she said. Brock took a breath. "I've been thinking about why I reacted the way I did. It wasn't just about women in combat, it was about me feeling erased." Kate didn't respond, just listened. "I've told my story for 30 years, he continued. The Marine who fought in Desert Storm. Every year it feels smaller, less relevant. And when you walked in with credentials that eclipsed mine with combat experience I can't match, I felt like I didn't matter anymore." "Your service happened," Kate said. "It's real. But it's not special anymore. Everyone serves now. Women serve in combat. And he stopped. I'm just getting old and scared that everything I built my identity on doesn't mean anything. Kate was quiet for a moment. Then, you know what the difference is between experience and ego? He looked at her. Experience gets shared, ego gets defended. You have 25 years of knowledge, tactics, leadership, crisis management. That doesn't expire. But the second you use it to make yourself feel bigger by making someone else feel smaller, it becomes worthless. Brock nodded slowly. My son wants to enlist. Navy. He asked me if I thought he could make it. Can he? I don't know what makes a warrior anymore. Kate's voice was firm but not unkind. Same things that always did. Heart, discipline, willingness to sacrifice for something bigger than yourself. Your son made a mistake, a serious one. But people can change if they choose to. He's asking about buds. Then he needs to understand what that means. It's not about being the biggest or the strongest. It's about refusing to quit when everything in you wants to stop. Brock met her eyes. Would you talk to him? Not now, not soon, but eventually, if he earns it. Kate considered that. If he does the work, if he makes real amends to Peyton, if he demonstrates actual change over time, then maybe. Thank you. Don't thank me yet. He hasn't earned it. Brock nodded, started to leave, then stopped. Commander, one more thing. That shot in Helmand, 1249 meters. I looked it up. That's in the top 10 longest confirmed kills in the war. You saved 6 Marines, including Sergeant Castillo, who's now a staff sergeant with 3 kids. They're alive because of you. Kate's expression didn't change. They're alive because they didn't quit. I just gave them the chance. Brock left. Kate went back inside. Peyton was doing homework at the kitchen table. Who was that? She asked. Mr. Hendricks, apologizing again. Do you believe him? Kate thought about that. I believe he's trying. Whether he succeeds is up to him. The next week passed quietly. Peyton returned to school Wednesday. Kate had walked her in that first morning just to make sure. A few stares, some whispers, but also nods of respect. And no one questioned her anymore. Tanner Hendricks was still on suspension. His seat in Peyton's social studies class empty. Friday afternoon, Kate received an email. From Brock. Subject line, no reply needed. She opened it. It was a photo. Tanner running, 5 a.m. by the timestamp. Full ruck on his back, soaked in sweat, face red, but still moving. The message below read, Day 6, he's doing the work. Thank you for the chance. Kate didn't reply, but she saved the photo. 2 weeks after the incident, there was a knock on the apartment door. This time it was Tanner. Brock stood behind him on the landing, but far enough back to make it clear this was his son's moment. Kate opened the door. Tanner looked different, thinner, tired, humbled. Commander Vance, he said, voice quiet. I know I don't deserve your time, but I wrote something in for Peyton, and I wanted to ask if I could give it to her. Kate looked past him at Brock. The older man said nothing, just gave a slight nod. Wait here, Kate said. She went inside. Peyton was reading on the couch. Someone here for you. Peyton looked up, worried. It's okay. He wants to give you something. You don't have to accept it. You don't have to say anything, but I'll be right there. Peyton stood, walked to the door slowly, Kate beside her. Tanner held out an envelope, plain white, her name written on the front in careful handwriting. Peyton White, I can't undo what I did. I kicked you, I mocked you, I recorded it like it was funny, and I'm sorry, really sorry. This letter explains everything I'm doing to make sure I never become that person again. You don't have to forgive me. I just needed you to know I'm trying. Peyton took the envelope, didn't open it, just held it. Tanner looked like he wanted to say more, then thought better of it. He nodded once, turned and walked away with his father. Kate closed the door. Peyton stood there, envelope in hand. Do you want to read it? Kate asked. Peyton thought for a moment. Not yet, maybe later. She set it on the kitchen counter, went back to her book. Kate watched her daughter, 12 years old, already learning that forgiveness was complicated, that people could change, but you didn't have to make it easy for them. She was learning to be strong in a different way than Kate had taught her. And Kate was proud of that. The weeks rolled into months. Spring became early summer. School continued. Peyton's bruise faded. The incident became part of school history rather than current crisis. Tanner returned from suspension different, quieter. He joined the Navy JROTC program, started running in the mornings, lost the swagger that had made him dangerous. He and Peyton didn't become friends, but they could exist in the same hallway without tension. In late May, Peyton came home with a flyer. "School's doing a 5K fundraiser," she said, "for wounded veteran services. Tanner's running it. He asked if we wanted to participate." Kate looked at the flyer. "Do you want to?" Peyton shrugged. "Maybe, if you run with me." "I can do that." They registered. The race was on a Saturday morning in early June. Warm but not hot. Clear skies. The course wound through the neighborhood around the school. 243 people participated. Parents, students, teachers, community members. Kate and Peyton ran together. Kate could have finished in under 20 minutes easily, but she stayed with her daughter, matching her pace, encouraging her when the hills got steep. They crossed the finish line in 38 minutes, Peyton breathing hard, but smiling. Tanner finished ahead of them, 26 minutes. He'd lost 30 pounds since March, built muscle, looked like a different person. After the race, there was a small ceremony. Principal Oakes spoke about the importance of supporting veterans, about how the school had learned hard lessons this year about respect and verification and not making assumptions. He invited Kate to say a few words. She hadn't prepared anything, but she stepped up to the microphone anyway. "My daughter told the truth," Kate said, "and she was punished for it, not by policy, but by people. People who couldn't imagine that truth looked different than what they expected." She paused, looked out at the crowd, saw Brock and Diane Hendricks, saw Tanner standing with the other JROTC kids, saw Peyton sitting with Master Chief Sullivan. "The military taught me a lot of things. How to shoot, how to survive, how to lead under pressure, but the most important thing it taught me was this. Never assume you know someone's capability based on what they look like. Verify, test, observe. And if you're wrong, have the courage to admit it." She stepped back from the microphone. Brief applause. She didn't need more than that. After the ceremony, families dispersed. Kate and Peyton were walking back to their car when Tanner approached. Brock was with him, but again hanging back. "Miss Vance," Tanner said to Peyton, "I just wanted to say thank you for running today. It means a lot that you participated." Peyton nodded. "You ran really fast." "I've been training every morning." "Your mom said Buds is about not quitting. I'm trying to learn what that means." Peyton looked at her mother. Kate gave a slight nod. Peyton turned back to Tanner. "I read your letter, the one you gave me." Tanner's expression shifted. Nervous. "Yeah, you said you were sorry and that you're trying to be different." "I am. I really am." "Okay, I believe you." Tanner looked like he'd been given something he didn't deserve. "Thank you." Peyton walked to the car. Kate lingered for just a moment. "Commander," Tanner said, "I know I have a long way to go, but if I keep doing the work, if I qualify for Buds someday, would you write a letter of recommendation, not for who I was, but for who I'm trying to become?" Kate studied him. "You keep running, keep training, keep proving you've changed. And when you're ready to apply, we'll talk." His face broke into the first genuine smile she'd seen from him. "Yes, ma'am, thank you." Kate walked to her car. Peyton was already buckled in. "You okay?" Kate asked as she started the engine. "Yeah, I think so." "Proud of you." "For what?" "For giving him a chance. You didn't have to." Peyton thought about that. "He's trying. That counts for something, right?" Kate smiled. "Yeah, baby, it does." They drove home through late morning sunshine. The radio played something soft. Peyton dozed in the passenger seat, and Kate thought about how far they'd come since that night in March. Her daughter had learned that truth didn't need permission, that standing up meant standing alone sometimes, that forgiveness was possible but never required, and the people who doubted them had learned something too, that warriors came in forms they didn't expect, that assumptions could be dangerous, that respect was earned through demonstrated capability, not assigned through gender or tradition. It wasn't a perfect resolution. Tanner still had years of work ahead of him. The school still had policies to implement and cultures to shift, and Peyton would face other challenges, other moments where she'd have to defend her truth. But something fundamental had changed. They'd been heard, they'd been believed, and they'd been validated. Not because Kate had yelled or threatened or demanded, but because she'd simply stood there, calm, capable, undeniable, and let the truth speak for itself. 6 months later in November, Lincoln Middle School held its Veterans Day assembly. The gymnasium was packed. Students filled the bleachers. Parents lined the walls. A color guard from the local Marine Corps base presented the colors. Kate sat in the front row in her dress whites. Peyton beside her in her best outfit. Master Chief Sullivan sat on Peyton's other side, his old uniform, pressed crisp metals gleaming. Principal Oakes spoke first, about service, about sacrifice, about how the school had learned to honor both this year. Then he introduced Kate. She walked to the podium, looked out at hundreds of faces. Some she knew, most she didn't. "I'm Commander Caitlin Vance," she said. "United States Navy, 20 years of service, Naval Special Warfare." She paused, let that sink in. "I'm not here to tell you war stories. I'm here to tell you what service actually means. It means showing up when it's hard. It means doing the right thing even when no one's watching. It means being willing to sacrifice for something bigger than yourself." She looked at Peyton. "My daughter knows what service looks like because she lives it. Every deployment I miss her birthday. Every training cycle I miss her school events. Every time I come home exhausted and she helps me anyway. That's service too." She looked at the JROTC section. Tanner sat in the front row uniform, perfect at attention. "Service means being willing to change, to admit when you're wrong, to become better than you were yesterday. Some of you in this room have learned that lesson this year, and that matters more than any medal I've ever been awarded." She stepped back from the podium. The gymnasium erupted in applause. Not polite, genuine. Kate returned to her seat. Peyton reached over and squeezed her hand. After the assembly families gathered in the hallway, Kate and Peyton were heading toward the exit when Brock approached. Diane was with him. Both of them looked different than they had in March, less certain, more humble. "Commander," Brock said, "thank you for speaking today." Kate nodded. "Mayor Hendricks." Diane stepped forward. "I owe you an apology too. I was cruel to Peyton. I said terrible things, and I'm sorry." Kate looked at her. "Mrs. Hendricks' apologies are start, but they're just words unless they lead to change. I know I've been working with the PTA to establish a military family support program. Resources for kids whose parents are deployed, counseling services. We should have had it years ago." Kate's expression softened slightly. "That's good. That will help a lot of families." They stood there awkwardly for a moment. Then Tanner appeared, in uniform, at attention. "Commander Vance," he said formally, "I wanted to inform you that I've submitted my application to the Naval Academy. Whether I'm accepted or not, I'll be enlisting after graduation. My goal is buds." Kate studied him. 6 months of discipline showed. He'd lost the arrogance, gained humility. "You ready for that?" she asked. "No, ma'am, but I will be." "Then keep working." "Yes, ma'am." He started to leave, then turned back. "Miss Vance, I got you something." He held out a small wrapped package. Peyton took it hesitantly, unwrapped it carefully. Inside was a frame. The photo he'd torn in March. Peyton's grandfather in his Navy uniform. Professionally restored. Better than the original. Peyton stared at it. "You fixed it." "I can't undo what I did, but I could fix what I broke. Your grandfather served. That matters, and I'm sorry I disrespected it." Peyton held the frame carefully. "Thank you." Tanner nodded, walked away. Kate and Peyton left the school together. Master Chief Sullivan walked with them to the parking lot. "You did good in there," Sullivan said to Kate. "Both of you." Kate smiled. "We had a good teacher." Sullivan chuckled. "I just taught you how to shoot. You learned everything else yourself." They reached Kate's car. Sullivan headed toward his truck. Kate and Peyton sat in the car for a moment before starting the engine. "Mom," Peyton said. "Yeah. Do you think people really change?" Kate thought about that. About Brock Hendricks going from arrogant bully to humbled father. About Tanner going from cruel teenager to disciplined JROTC cadet. About a school that went from discrimination to support. I think people can change if they choose to, Kate said. But it takes work. Real work. Not just saying sorry, actually becoming different. Peyton nodded, looked at the restored photo of her grandfather. I'm glad he fixed this. Me too. Kate started the engine. They drove home through late afternoon light, the same route they'd driven 6 months ago after the worst night of Peyton's young life. But everything was different now. Peyton was stronger, more confident. She'd learned that truth was powerful even when it was questioned, that standing up meant standing alone sometimes, that forgiveness was possible but never required. And Kate had learned something too. That silence could be more powerful than shouting. That demonstrated capability mattered more than defended ego. That the best way to prove someone wrong is to simply be undeniably right. They pulled into their apartment complex. Master Chief Sullivan's porch light was already on. Waiting for them like always, they went inside. Their small apartment felt bigger somehow, safer, more like home. Peyton set the restored photo of her grandfather on the mantel, next to a photo of Kate receiving her Bronze Star, next to a photo of Peyton's father in his SEAL uniform taken 2 weeks before he was killed. 3 generations of service, 3 generations of sacrifice, and now one girl who understood what it all meant. Kate made dinner. They ate together, talked about school, about the upcoming holidays, about normal things that felt precious because they were rare. Later, after Peyton had gone to bed, Kate stood on their small balcony, looking out at the distant lights of Coronado, where she'd trained, where she'd become someone she never imagined she could be. Her phone buzzed. Email from Principal Oakes. Subject: Thank you. The message was brief. Commander, today's assembly has already generated requests from 3 other schools in the district. They want to know if you'd be willing to speak to their students too. No pressure. Just wanted you to know the impact you made today. Kate looked at the email for a long moment. Then she typed a simple reply: send me the details. I'll make time. She put her phone away, looked out at the night sky. They'd kicked her daughter for telling the truth. But her daughter had stood up anyway. And now, 6 months later, that truth was changing more than just one school, more than just one family. It was changing how people saw service, how they saw capability, how they saw women in uniform. Not because Kate had demanded it, but because she'd simply shown up, been undeniable, and let the truth speak louder than any lie. The door behind her opened. Peyton stepped out onto the balcony, wrapped in a blanket. Can't sleep, Kate asked. Peyton shook her head. Just thinking. About what? About everything. About how different things are now. Kate put an arm around her daughter. Better different or worse different? Peyton thought about that. Better, harder, but better. They stood there together, mother and daughter, warrior and witness. Mom, Peyton said quietly. Yeah, I'm glad you're real. Kate smiled, pulled her daughter closer. Me too, baby. Me too. And in the quiet darkness of a California night, 2 people who'd been called liars stood together in undeniable truth, stronger for what they'd survived, ready for whatever came next. Because they'd learned the most important lesson of all. The truth doesn't need permission. It just needs someone brave enough to speak it, and someone strong enough to stand behind it, no matter what. So